Here's another problem I have with ADHD influencers and ADHD coaches is when you're coaching someone in life, it seems that you have to understand what they're doing in life. And if all you've ever done is ADHD coach, then I don't think you have a good understanding of life and what it throws at you. The video you're about to see, I filmed 2 days ago, and I've been thinking about it. ADHD coaches. What is about an ADHD coach that rubs me so much the wrong way? Is it the monetization of basically being a friend with good advice? Is it someone preying upon your vulnerability, eager to help, honest about it? What's wrong with that? Is it the lack of real accreditation? Is it personal? Is it that I feel that I want to help people with ADHD and I'm jealous that people are making a successful life about it, so I have to create a scenario where they must be wrong because I have not achieved this? Or is it, in general, the absolute hubris that somebody thinks they're empowered enough to help me focus and achieve a great life? What gives them that? What makes them capable of helping? Hey friends, it's good to see you here. My name is R.O. Kramer. This is my channel where I examine Hocus Focus Coming of Age with ADD and its medicines. You don't have to read it. You don't have to buy it. The value of it is up to the reader. It's a cool book. It outlines my experience with ADHD, and I'm really proud of it. I do want to say something about the channel. On my last video, I don't even remember what it was called. I want to confess that I used ChatGPT back and forth to try to generate a script that was going to be like algorithmically prosperous, and it performed poorly. That experience inspired me to be considerate about my videos and to do them the way I want. When I'm talking about ADHD and medications, it's coming from the heart, and no robot can touch that. So I just want you guys to know, in creating my book and in attempting to promote it, I did make like an Instagram channel, a TikTok channel, where I dove into the ADHD online community. And not only was I not really received well in that environment because I'm speaking antagonistically about medications, I'm saying I don't think they're good. I'm total outlier in that community. And that makes me, for one, my stuff just doesn't do well. But who knows why? No one really knows how the algorithm works. I say a lot of words you shouldn't say. I talk about substances you shouldn't talk about. So it's very hard for me to actually pinpoint why things don't do well. And it's okay. I'm just going to do it because that's why I'm in it. And I don't want to talk too much about this. So ADHD coaching is a industry of people who talk to people with ADHD. These are not doctors. These are not prescribers. And I have interviewed on this very YouTube channel two ADHD coaches, Ryan Mayer and Kelly Alms, as she likes to be referred to as. So you can watch those. And those are really interesting too, because both of them advocate for and use medication. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of air my non-pro ADHD medications perspective as someone whose job it is to continually advocate for medications without prescribing them. So I think those videos, they're on my channel. I can link them if I remember to. I'm a pretty busy guy and I'm not a full-time YouTuber and I'm not a coach. People have reached out to me and asked me to coach them, and I've declined because I don't think it's my place to coach other people. I coach myself, and I honestly, that's enough. I work on my life. I try to get my life together. I'm a busy person. I have a job. I once heard someone say that if your job doesn't exist in Busytown by Richard Scarry, it's not a real job. And nobody in Busytown is an ADHD coach. I also want to say I will end up being very critical of ADHD coaches in the process of this video. And I do want to recognize I have a huge bias. I am not unbiased. I had a personal experience with medications that left me really anti-medication. People will say they didn't work for you. I will say they did, and that's the problem. If you really want to hear about it, I've made a ton of videos about medication. I don't really want to talk about it, but I'll probably end up talking about it a lot because it is the hill that I seem to be willing to go on. But the point I'm making is, yeah, I have a bias. So that's another reason why I'm not a coach. I have a unique perspective to me My followers, the people who like my content, probably agree with me, and this is a place where we can have that perspective. I always welcome an open dialogue with people who disagree with me. Rarely does someone sit at the table with me, but that's just how I feel about it. I don't coach. I don't sell a focus program. I have thought about it before. I've thought about how I could leverage my anti-medication approach and made some class, some course, some subscription, some breakout group. I know people who are doing it even in the anti-medication space, and something about it, putting myself as an authority, it just seems to me not the path I want to take. I'm a creative individual. I want to create things that people can consume on their own as art and interpret it on their own. I don't want to tell people how to live. And personally, I don't like people telling me how to live, which is why I don't like coaches, but they're huge. So I do want to examine them. But anyways, if you want to hear more about my story, watch all the videos on my channel, subscribe to my channel. And if you want my book, but you can't afford it, I'll send you a copy in the mail. And please review it. I love getting reviews, because the thing that's really tricky about this, I'm going to be honest, I think I'm more of a writer than I am an ADHD influencer. And what I chose to write about is ADHD. So I'm at a strange place where people who read memoirs don't know why they'd read my book if they're not involved with ADHD. People with ADHD don't want to read my book. I've gotten a lot of messages from people who own my book and are afraid to read it because they're afraid I might be right. That's a crazy thing. But anyways, so what are ADHD coaches? They are not therapists. They're not doctors. They don't have a real license. They have a litany of certifications that come from questionable groups that we'll get into. So are they, a lot of times an ADHD coach is more or less just like a vibe consultant. And in a way, like, maybe I'm just jealous because that is a cool job. Like, if I just had to call someone and be like, yeah, bro, you shouldn't do that. You should do that. Just a friend who gives you solid advice, that's fair. But big part of me just feels like it's a scam. It's a grift that and it's such a symbol of the dystopian online hellscape we live in, that we're basically paying for friends to give us encouraging advice. I just wish that was a free service, because a lot of the ADHD coaches do just seem that they're on your phone auditioning to be your buddy, and you have to pay a subscription to have a buddy who can tell you like it is and tell you that you're doing great and, provide you with specific ADHD tools. I've never had an ADHD coach. Maybe if I did, I'd think different, but I have such a pessimistic view of it. I'm sure that I would be I've been told in other avenues by a writing coach that I am uncoachable. So like a lot of times it does seem that they're just also, the typical person with ADHD who's overwhelmed with ADHD content online. People with ADHD, they like to spend money and they're impulsive. So a lot of times what I think they're doing is they're saying, this is a big investment, and if you make it, you're making a big investment in your future and in yourself. And that's an investment that you always get a return on. So if you invest in this ADHD coaching that I'm offering, your things are going to be better. It's going to be expensive, but it'll be worth it, because we're going to solve all your problems. That you have a hard time keeping a job, you can't keep your house clean, your relationships fall apart, whatever is your ADHD, it doesn't matter, because once you make this investment, that's going to, first of all, congratulations on making this investment, because you're showing how serious you actually are about taking your ADHD journey seriously, and good on you. So congratulations on sending me that money. We are going to together grow your life, and all the things that suffer, we're going to make better. And you're going to talk to another professional at the same time as you're working with me. They're going to give you pharmaceutical supplementation while I'm just going to be your buddy, and typically they charge $75 to $250 an hour, which is a significant amount of money. And the way I feel about it is, if you're doing well, you're making money, right? And if you're doing well, you probably don't need a coach because you're doing well. And I imagine that a lot of the people who seek out coaches they're doing it in a time of desperation, which, no shade, we've all experienced those kinds of times, and maybe something like this has helped. But I know in my times of desperation, I have divvied out large sums of money, and sometimes I've been helped, and sometimes I've been like, geez, insult to injury at this moment. So it's like when you look up ADHD coaches, you find thousands of ADHD coaches out there, but very few people who are the ADHD coached, very few people who are getting coached. So that, to me, is a red flag that this is a flash in the pan of an industry. But I find it strange. But the average coach income, according to my research, was $74,000 a year, which is a decent income. But you got to know with averages that if one guy makes $150,000 a year and one guy makes $0 a year, and that's your sample pool, then the average is 74,000. So we really don't know what that is. But these people are selling these courses that are kind of all built by AI. I'm going to be honest, I've subscribed to some of these ADHD coaches to read the emails, and they're all AI. These are just guys plugging things into an AI about ADHD and just emailing it out to people in blasts, and just they're just casting out so many lines of lead magnets, hoping that eventually you stick to one. It's all just business jargon. It's basically, you take people who are versed in sales and you just convert them to anything. Some people who are sales obsessed, it doesn't matter what they're selling. So a lot of these really, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, very sales oriented people, they're just selling themselves as an ADHD coach, and they already kind of have the structure of what an ADHD coach, and it's basically implanted into them by these organizations that certify them, and they just sell you the same thing they all sell you. I have my own conspiracy theory that it's all basically a grift that does tie into the medication, because a lot of the organizations that feed off this have some loose connections to the pharmaceutical industry and the people who validate what ADHD is in the DSM and all these other avenues. So it's a big structure. It's a trickle-down thing. And at the top, you do have the pharmaceutical companies, and then you have psychiatry, and then you have academia, and then you have all these other float-outs, and eventually you get to the smallest guy on that pyramid, which is the ADHD coach. And a lot of them have networks that they have meetups, and it's a whole organization. And they're really keyed in on very salesy things, and we're going to dive in, and I'm going to react to some of this stuff live and talk about it. But I just feel like it's this overpriced thing. They try to nail a subscription, and once you got it, you forget you have it. I find it predatory. That's all I'm saying. I think ADHD coaching is predatory, but I've never done it because I'm too afraid of being preyed upon. And I have such a unique approach and experience with ADHD because I'm so resentful of medication and even the classification of ADHD that I will likely never receive support even when I could use it. So take everything I say with many grains of salt, because I am not I am a unique case. But the thing is, I have nothing to sell you but a book, and I have lost faith in that doing anything. So at this point, I am just saying what I think. So I tried to sort of put on the sheep's clothing and enter the ADHD influencing atmosphere, and I couldn't do it. I can't. I have to be honest. I have to be who I am, and that's not a place for me because it's not there. And I am, in the background of this, working on a really funny and long and elaborate piece on ADHD influencers who tie in strongly with ADHD coaches, because every ADHD coach is a digital marketing person. They all are influencers online about ADHD. They all make the same boilerplate ADHD content where they talk to themselves and pretend they have ADHD and they don't have ADHD, and they provide support for each other. And for a while, a lot of the ADHD influencers were being funded by a company called Dun, which is now over. Dun ADHD, they were committing great crimes, and the CEO and lead clinician at Dun ADHD were put in jail. And a lot of what they did was using micro-influencers and influencers of ADHD to leverage their services and sort of create lead magnets through these individuals by paying them to create content that was advertisements for Dun ADHD, which was a telehealth company, which was actually prescribing medication. So these ADHD coaches are sort of the first handshake and introduction. Their first job is to say, you probably have ADHD because you have some of these traits that I've exhibited in my short form content. Follow me. Oh, check out this company. They'll actually get you on the medication. And then when you're trying to adapt to a life on medication, which is a big adjustment because you're taking stimulants every day, the ADHD coach is someone who can guide you through it. And I find that a lot of their information on how to live is more or less information on how to live while taking stimulants more than it is information on how to live while having ADHD, because none of them, except for a few, their approach is without ADHD medication. It's all in line with medication. And whenever I ask them about this, they say, oh, you don't have to take medication. But then I ask them, do they have any clients who don't? The answer is no, they all take medication. It's me and 3 other people online are people who talk about ADHD without medication. They're so strongly entwined that if anyone tells you, oh, I recently discovered that I had late diagnosed ADHD, the next thing they're going to say 9 times out of 10, really, not all of them, is, and I started taking medication and it's changed my life. It will change your life. Okay, so enough babbling. Let's react. Okay, so I'm reacting now. So I'm going to go over here. First of all, this is ADDCA. This is the ADHD Coaching Academy. This is where people become ADHD coaches. They have world-class faculty, are coaches in action. These organizations basically just accredit themselves and accredit each other. I mean, typically they're in line. Let's see who. So it's a ADHD coaching is sort of like in the umbrella of life coaching, which that's another conversation for another day. But let's take a look at this website here. So, I mean, let's see about them. They're the global leader in ADHD coaching. There's a lot of sign up here, become certified. They have a level 1 and level 2 accreditation from the International Coach Federation. And you can do it anywhere in the world. Focus on executive functions, character strengths, neurodiverse multiple strength, proprietary models. So they tell you just how to be a coach. But let's say if you want to be a coach, how much does it cost? So if I want to be a basic ADHD life coach training, it's 21 hours over the course of 7 weeks. So it's 3 hours a week for 7 weeks. So they're getting a big time investment. Personal transformation. So you have to be coached to become a coach, which is 32 hours in 9 weeks. And then basic coaching skills, which is 16 weeks. It's a long process. This program puts you on the path. So it's just level 1. So there's levels to this. So you can kind of do it. Let's see. I don't really, how much does it cost? Here we go. Payment plan, $2,397 deposit, and payment in full is $7,071 to get a level 1 certification. If you want to be advanced ADHD life certification, you're looking at an additional $13,000. So if you want to be, level 1 and level 2, then you're looking at $20,000 investment, which is a lot of money. So the reason these coaches have to charge a lot is because they have to pay off likely a debt they make. So, I mean, the scam starts here, and then you have to scam your way into paying for your license to scam, more or less. I'm sure some of these coaches help, but that's a lot of money, in my opinion, to get a job talking about ADHD with people. But maybe I'm naive and it's actually seriously mental health. But with that kind of cash, you could invest in a real therapy or counseling degree. But maybe this is something those people do a lot. But just off the bat, man, $20,000 is a lot of money. And this is an email I got from some ADHD coach, and it's clearly AI because it has this unique bolding. People don't make things bold like this unless they're insane. AI does, and AI does the bullets, AI does the breakdowns. And let's look through this thing and find the M dash. Okay, no M dash. Maybe he wrote it. But see, when you sign up for an email list with an ADHD coach, you get this AI slop that doesn't actually really say anything of substance just about every day. Many people are not burned out, they're bored out. Most jobs are boring, repetitive, and uninspiring, and often lead to mental fatigue and burnout. The job doesn't provide a flow experience. Get out of your mind into flow. And here's another problem I have with ADHD influencers and ADHD coaches is when you're coaching someone in life, it seems that you have to understand what they're doing in life. And if all you've ever done is ADHD coach, then I don't think you have a good understanding of life and what it throws at you. All right, so here's another one. The 1 hour system that turns your ADHD brain into a business. This is something that this guy, Jeff Alou, I think, was selling. But again, this is obviously AI. I mean, anytime that they use emojis as their bullets, that's AI. So it's like, I don't even want to read this because I know it's it's crap. And I know that it's just regurgitated ADHD jargon that there's tons of. And of course, he introduces himself and he says, I'm young, I'm 26, my company made $3,000. Like, what did your company do? A photographer, a second brain business? I don't know. So it just feels really weird to me that like, if you're doing so good in business, why are you making a business out of coaching? Oh, this is my podcast. It came up. I made this podcast and I didn't keep going because it's really hard to keep up with this stuff. So here are 3 ADHD coaches or ADHD influencers. This is Ryan Mayer. Ryan did sit down with me. I want to show that, react to my own podcast. Thanks for joining. My name is, there's my silly intro. Because what I loved about this podcast with Ryan Mayer is I reached out and he just set up a breakout call with me through whoever was doing his administrative work. And he was really nice, but he had no idea who I was. So the conversation went in a really different direction because he was not expecting to have a conversation about medication.
ADHD coach, and I help other people like me who have ADHD to navigate through the storms in life that are caused by our brain wiring.
What? I'm more questions briefly. What is the certification involved?
Sure. Yeah, so kind of my origin story with coaching, because I didn't know it was a thing either.
But if you want to hear my conversation with this ADHD coach, I recommend you go through it. Only 141 people have watched it, so you could be the 142nd one if you're into this ADHD content. Now, this is an environment where Ryan is extremely comfortable with 2 other ADHD guys, and whenever I'm around these guys, I feel like an outcast because they're all celebrating each other, they're all encouraging each other, they're all sharing these similar talking points about ADHD that I feel like I'm not, because I don't agree with, I actually am an outcast. But I want to share something. This is a very common part of the ADHD conversation that happens all the time, and it's the kind of thing you hear from coaches, and it's the kind of thing that I disagree with strongly.
We wear many hats. We do. Yes, we do. So it was very liberating, and at first, though, I was actually confused because, like so many people, the only exposure...
And I do want to point out, there was a time when I did see my book on his shelf, and I no longer do, and Ryan no longer gets in touch with me. I don't...
or awareness I had around ADHD was in 2nd grade. I can remember there was one of my classmates who had the stereotypical ADHD, where he was disruptive in class, he was causing trouble, he had to get removed from class to go take his medication, and then when he came back was very much in a zombie-like state. So I was like petrified of taking medication. I said, my personality is what makes me who I am. I don't want that. I don't want to lose that. And the psychiatrist said to me, Ryan, if you couldn't see the board in class, would you wear glasses? And I thought, well, yeah, of course I would. And she said, taking this medication isn't going to change you. It's just going to be like glasses for your brain.
I really disagree with this on many levels. This is it's a logical fallacy. It's a false equivalence because glasses is what I consider a hardware issue. It's about the hardware of you, and you don't get it. Sure, you could say, oh, I'm addicted to my glasses, but they really don't. It's not a substance you consume. Nobody's going to say, I have a big test coming up, can I borrow your glasses to study? But this is these are the kinds of things that ADHD coaches say to pull you in. Say, hey man, it's just like needing glasses, and it's not, because you can get addicted to this. And somebody, this is even more base level than the diabetes comparison, which I also disagree with, because the thing is, if you look at the invention of the amphetamine, the invention of the medications up to the point where we are now, it's not like they invented glasses and then said, what should we do with these? I don't know. Do people see blurry? That seeing blurry was a clear problem, and they had to create an invention for it, where this was, they had this medication and they didn't know where to distribute it, so they figured that maybe it would eventually it seems to help people. But this is something also that happens. And when I took the medication, you constantly are going to advocate for it. And I created what I called temples of logic to support my usage, because it's so hard to accept that when you have ADHD and you take medication for ADHD and the medication is helping you for ADHD, that it's so easy to believe there's nothing wrong with it because it doesn't feel like there is, but it's something to consider.
Yeah. And that's what I always tell clients, because as an ADHD coach, it's not my role to tell someone you should get diagnosed or you should take medication.
Except what he just said was something basically saying you should. He just said, it's not my role to tell you to take medication, but if you needed glasses, wouldn't you wear it? That's all.
However, I would say to people, what if it could help? And maybe it's worth a try.
That's flip-flopping. That's not being consistent. You're saying it's not my role to tell you to take meds, but you're saying, why not try them though? So it's kind of hypocritical maybe, or maybe not hypocritical, but it's a little bit circular in its logic. And I have nothing, and it's hard for me to do this because it feels like Ryan's my friend, but I feel like after our podcast he didn't really he never got back to me on my book or anything. And I feel like there's also this, I've reached out to a lot of these people and asked to do podcasts with them, and I kind of given up on doing podcasts with people. I got a lot of rejections, and some of them, someone who we're going to examine very soon, Kristen Carter, is someone who really is just a digital marketing maven, and that's what it all is about. And I feel like I don't have the right digital marketing chops. I struggle with the idea that someone's going to sell me a better life other than like God, and that I need to subscribe to any of these people. But I'm also just a rogue person. I do things rogue. So the idea of going to summits, conventions, and gatherings doesn't work for me. I don't know. So here, I want to talk about Kristen Carter. This is a ADHD coach and influencer who grinds my gears. She is... when you go to their website, and this is where it starts. Your ADHD, this is always something they say. You're not broken, you're just misunderstood. Which to me sounds like something someone would say to pull someone into a cult. And it does seem that the online ADHD community is a cult. And they do validate each other. And they do she has a ADHD podcast, and she loves medication and she celebrates medication. I watched an episode where she popped a bottle of champagne when they said that pregnant women can take stimulants. So I once reached out to ask if I could be on her podcast, and like the application included questions about whether or not how many followers I had and stuff, and I never heard back from her, but I do want to react to some of the things I see. So this is her group focused, and it's like there's so much information, but it's all like you can't get yourself, if you can't keep a schedule, if there are too many steps, if you haven't reached your goals, you lose everything on your to-do list and nothing gets done, and things seem fun at first but you can't keep going. Yeah, I've struggled with that too, but I have made systems, and I have been tempted to share them and sell them, because it's like you figure out how to live and you feel better about it and you want to share with people. I've had the temptation to coach because I had things I struggled with and I don't, because I grew up and I figured it out the hard way. And maybe I'm mad and maybe part of that growth was that I figured it out myself, and therefore like I'm really forming strong habits because I figured it out for me what works. And is someone like Kristen going to help me? And this is just like an online group that, this is perfect for you if you're kind and open human. You like balance between expert support and being self-led. You can function, that means you're coachable. You can function in your day-to-day but still struggle with perfectionism, procrastination, time management, emotional regulation. This stuff is so repetitive. It all seems the same to me. Benefits and features. Consider this program is the secret to holding yourself accountable in a way that works best for you. You can transform and understand the ins and outs of ADHD. You'll be amazed at the things you thought were just you, which are actually common in the community. This is cult behavior. This is cult language. Identify and overcome your ADHD blind spots so you can manage them more effective. And stop pretending they're superpowers. Manage your explosive emotions so you can feel calmer and have better relationships. This reminds me of a medication side effect. Create boundaries so you can say no. Interrupt the cycles of perfectionism. Become better and faster decision maker. Yeah, and so if you say, yeah, I want to join, what pops up over here? Amount due right now. So, I mean, and I don't even, it's card information right there. Okay, let's hear what she has to say about it.
Hi. So, thinking about joining Focused. I'm so glad you're checking it out. I wanted to make a video for you to answer some questions and hopefully just help you make a decision that feels really good to you. I am sure you are asking the question, will this work for me? Or is this going to be another thing that I waste my money on and then feel shame about afterward? I don't know if this program is going to work for you specifically, but I do know that I have been able to help over 1,000 adults with ADHD make progress in their lives. And when I say progress, I mean understand themselves better, accept themselves and their ADHD brain, and become more of who they want to be. You're probably wondering about the community. What is the community like within Focused? Will I be accepted? Are these people weirdos? Great questions. As someone with ADHD myself, I suffer greatly from rejection sensitivity.
And in case you don't know, rejection sensitivity is that people with ADHD, they don't like being rejected, and people who don't have ADHD like it.
I wonder if you do too. Rejection sensitivity shows up when we're just not sure if we're going to be accepted. And oftentimes we try to contort ourselves and mask and make ourselves different than we are and people please.
I'm already lost. I'm just going to go to the end.
You are entitled to get whatever you need from this program. Give it your all or not. Half-ass it. That's totally fine. But get what you deserve. Get what you came for. And I really, really hope that you will give it a try and see all of the benefits that you can get from my Focused ADHD coaching program.
She has a team, but so when you join her Focused program, you get access to 4 courses immediately, and they come with PDF workbooks and several classes taught by Kristen herself. How to coach yourself. So it's videos, and you get live coaching calls. So we have 3 or more live calls. So that means she gets on a Zoom with everyone 3 times a week, and people can talk. So it's a community. And I guess part of what I just don't like is that it's like this should just be free, and there's a community. They say get shit done, This one guy, Presley P., he's been a member for a month, and he said, I've gained and grown so much from you in such a short time. So look, there's nice graphics. It's all really slick, and she's there. Now, but I do want to go to who is Kristen Carter, because I think it's interesting, her about section. So about who is Kristen Carter, she's a multi-certified coach. It doesn't say, I've looked at this already, and I had a hard time finding what kind of coach. She's a longtime educator. I mean, she's an ADHD person, and I thought about this. I thought, if I'm going to write a book and talk about ADHD, maybe I should help people with ADHD, but I realized that to me, it felt like an inauthentic move, and it seemed that the only option was I couldn't do it without grifting, and I just couldn't grift. I just can't grift. I'm an artist, not a grifter. As a life coach with multiple certifications, again, just multiple certifications and a decade of ADHD experience, I teach my clients evidence-based techniques for self-acceptance. I, as an internationally recognized coach for adults with ADHD, but recognized by who? If you want to be coached with me, perhaps, and again, it's not personal coaching with her. It's like the community. So it's a way that she batches the work so she doesn't have to talk to thousands of people. Very clever business. She spent the last 15 years reading books, attending lectures, researching studies. She became that for 7 years. She worked with students who struggled in a successful tutoring company. And she's a trauma-informed coach, so she falls into the body keeps the score stuff. And when she diagnosed with ADHD, she eagerly went on medication. And for the first time, she was proud of her work. And I can relate. When I first went on medication, I I did really good in school too. And then she was medicated, but she didn't have the support. So this is like her whole thing is support with medication, because taking medication is really confusing too. So I get that people on stimulants could benefit from having so much help. She joined a group coaching program and she became obsessed with coaching. But that's the thing. Where's the story of someone, I don't know. And you know, I'm happy that people have found her and helped her, but I get so irritated by her, if I'm being completely honest. I try to be in the middle of the road. Like, let me show you some of what I've seen from her on the Instagram that kind of just makes me uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. It happened to me. I got burned out of talking about ADHD. The fact that every day she wakes up and says, let's talk about ADHD, let's talk about ADHD, let's talk about ADHD. Where does it all lead to if you're always just talking about a disorder? Like, what is this?
Somebody needs to hear that if you are experimenting and like on a medication journey and you take Strattera, it's going to give you a bellyache if you don't eat. I don't know who needs to hear this.
It makes me uncomfortable. That makes me uncomfortable. She's talking about just, and see, that's the kind of coaching tips I'm talking about. That's not really a life coaching tip. That's just like, hey, if you're taking stimmies, you got to have something in your tummy. Yeah, I don't like any of this turning people into babies. What's the sexiest thing you can do?
Say, I want to get to know you better. I want to improve this relationship.
Probably just, why is everyone a fucking guru? Why does everyone know everything? It's just like all these people are presenting themselves with so much information and so much answers to all your biggest problems that it just seems that it's too much. That why it's just weird that everybody has a show. I have a show and I don't deserve one. I shouldn't be talking about anything. I shouldn't coach. And I think that if I was on medication, I'd be confident enough to tell you that I could coach. If I was just taking ADHD meds, I had this kind of crazy confidence that I was on a different level, and that would inspire me to be a coach. That would make me think I was in a position where I could coach people, because I have these delusions of grandeur, and I critically think that a lot of these people on medications are microdosing delusions of grandeur, and that helps validate their quest to be a coach and to tell you how to live your best life. But that's really, you know, once I get humbled down, I can't do it. Like, okay, so here's the Shimmer. It's premium ADHD coaching without a premium cost. Our membership is just $230 a month. That's fucking premium cost. $230 a month is a ton of money. And if you sign up and forget about it, that's a ton of money. And there's another one, Grow Therapy, Thrive and Stay Focused with ADHD Support. All these, they just have the slick marketing. And it's like, it's therapy. It's like, I just think that it's cashing in on people's weakest thing, and it's like, here's a finding a coach. I'm already exhausted of this. I can't. So here's the organization, PAAC. I don't know, man. It's all so tiresome, really. I do not accept. So this is the ADHD convention, and who's on the board at CHAD? They have a board of directors these are the people who kind of are on the board. The president is Jeremy. She's Jeremy. Oh, it's a lady named Jeremy. That's kind of cool. You know, it's a big, like, do you understand? You know, and I could get on the tinfoil hat and find out if these people are getting pharmaceutical money or anything, but this just kind of shows you that this ADHD coaching industry is so large that it has a big board. This is like a big industry, and if you figure out how to manage your ADHD without them, then you're keeping a bunch of cash out of their pockets. You know, so, I mean, I think some people are held by coaches. I have never used them, so I can't advocate for or against. When I was quitting medication, I worked with a holistic psychiatrist, and that was helpful because she helped me get off medications, and it is good to get support and help. But something about a subscription-based coaching, it makes the assumption that what you're doing, you're going to be doing for a very long time, rather than something you do a course once. I think a good coach would work with you a few times and then you're done. But all of these coaches have this scaffolding kind of tiers of how they make their money, and they take money from you for a very long time. So they're putting you in a funnel where they're extracting resources from you. That's the part of it that I don't like. It's a web you get stuck in. I think a really good coach would say, hey, I charge $200 for 5 sessions and then we're done. I tell you everything I know, because it's like, how are you just going to constantly funnel me ChatGPT formatted info dumps about ADHD, or are you actually going to help me? Maybe this is all my temple of logic that I'm creating so I don't get a coach, is this kind of grift. And say, oh, it's a grift, so it's not legitimate. And all the people who are ADHD coaches are mostly good people. None of them are bad. And I don't think even the people on the board are bad. I think what is bad is that like our culture is at a place where this is what we're doing. And that it all kind of does tie in with medication, which I do think is not the best thing. I think it does get you stuck in the mud, and that you're always chasing your tail, you're always treading water, you're always on to the next thing. Because all this self-improvement stuff itself is also saying, oh, once I X, Y, and Z, then my life will be together. And I'm sure the coaches present that and say that's not actually it. And a lot of the stuff I say is borderline ADHD coach, and that's tricky for me, man. So I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but I just want to get the conversation out and say it. And that if any ADHD coaches want to talk to me and set me straight, they can. But so if you're out there thinking about getting a coach and you watch this video to think about it, that's cool. And if you, and I'm sorry that if I hurt anybody's feelings or did any of that, and I'm sorry that I'm just rambling. I'm still trying to figure out how to make videos when I work 1 million hours a week and when I do this. And I don't know, but I appreciate you guys.